Good afternoon, dear students. How are you all doing? I hope you are doing fantastic. Come on, everybody. Yes or no? Okay, I'm doing fine too. Hello, Sanya, Om, Anushka, Anuj, Hitesh. Good afternoon. Priyanka, Mohammed Farid. Congrats. Good afternoon and congratulations. Okay. So, friends, let's start our journey. Finally, after discussing so many chapters, we are on to our last journey or the chapter, last chapter, I would say, that is the Indian economy. Sir, as the name of the chapter itself suggests, what we are going to talk about here. हम लोग यहाँ पे किस बारे में बात करने वाले हैं, ये चैप्टर का नाम इनफ है बताने के लिए. It's a good news that ICAI has introduced this chapter because this is the first time this chapter has been introduced, right? So let's start this topic. Let's see what we are going to learn here. चलिए चैप्टर शुरू करते हैं, देखते हैं क्या अपने लोग यहाँ पर सीखने वाले हैं. ठीक है, ध्यान से सुनिएगा आप लोग सबको ही. Friends, here we are going to talk about the Indian journey, or more specifically, the journey of Indian economy. Here we are going to more specifically talk about the journey of Indian economy. Okay, so I will divide the journey using a timeline. My timeline would be such that we have pre 1757 period. This is 1757 obviously, and this is pre 1757. Then we have, let's say, 1947. Okay, then we have 1991, and then we have the period post 1991. Friends, this is what this chapter is all about. ये चैप्टर इसी बारे में है, इंडियन इकोनॉमी की पूरी जर्नी के बारे में है ये चैप्टर, जहां पे हम लोग पढ़ने वाले हैं कैसे इंडिया की इकोनॉमी शुरू होती है शुरू से, एंड कैसे चीजों का बदलाव आता है. ठीक है, हाउ थिंग्स चेंज, we are going to study that here. Okay, friends? Okay, great. Let's go ahead, friends. Can you tell me, before I start and I talk about this timeline, Indian economy timeline, before I talk about Indian economy timeline, okay, this is the Indian economy timeline. Before I start talking about Indian economy timeline, I have a question to you all. What is it, sir? Sir, क्या सवाल है आपका? My question to you all, dear students, is before I talk about this Indian economy timeline, I would say, my question to you is, who wrote the first book related to economics? Who wrote the first book related to economics? Before I start this journey, please answer me this question. Okay, I can see Priyanka has written Adam Smith. Okay, let's see some more answers, please. Okay, so yes, dear students, yes, the Western literature The Western economics tells us it was Adam Smith. But I'm sorry to say, it was from our own country, Kautilya, more famously known as Chanakya. Around the Mauryan Empire, when we had the Mauryan Empire, when in India, dear students, we had the Mauryan Empire. Dear students, when we had the Mauryan Empire. Sir, around what time? Around. You don't need to remember exactly. Around 300 before Christ. Around that time. Around that time, dear students. Yes or no? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Khair. Actually, में, what was the book's name? Arthashastra. Arthashastra. The book's name was Arthashastra. The book's name was Arthashastra. Arthashastra. It would be wrong to say that this was book only on economics. No, it is wrong. It will be wrong. The book's content included politics. It included strategy. It definitely included economics. It included military and so many other things. The book Arthashastra emphasized that it is a ruler's duty to keep the people's interest before his interest. Ruler must keep people's interest before his own interest. This is what was highlighted in this book. Of course, this book contains a lot. Of course, this book contains a lot. It would be wrong to say, but just a brief gist I wanted to give you about this book in the Indian economy. Okay. Now, friends, let me move with you further. But before that, हिंदी में अगर मैं एक बार बताऊं तो इकोनॉमिक्स से जुड़ी पहली किताब असल में एडम स्मिथ ने नहीं, चाणक्य ने अर्थशास्त्र लिख दिया था अराउंड 300 बीसी. ठीक है. ये जो बुक थी अर्थशास्त्र, ये पॉलिटिक्स, फिलॉसफी, स्ट्रेटेजी, इकोनॉमिक्स, मिलिट्री, हर चीज के बारे में बात करती है. और इस बुक का मेन बात ये था कि एक रूलर को, एक राजा को अपनी प्रजा को पहले रखना है, अपनी प्रजा की जरूरतों को पहले रखना है अपनी जरूरतों से. कुल मिलाकर इस बुक में ये दोस्तों कहा गया है. उम्मीद है आप सबको क्लियर है. तब मैं आगे बढ़ूंगा. हाँ ना बोलिए. यस सर. यस सर, वी अंडरस्टूड दैट सर. सर, डिड यू अंडरस्टैंड इट? यस और नो, प्लीज कम ऑन फ्रेंड्स. राइट. वेरी वेरी गुड. वेरी वेरी गुड. वेरी वेरी गुड. Sir, we have understood, sir. Sir, we have understood, sir. Great. Let's move on then. Let's move on then. Let's move on then. Let's talk further then. If so far so good, then let's move on. Great. Now, friends, let's go back to the Indian economy's timeline. Friends, Indian economy's timeline. Friends, if we talk about the period, this 1757 to 1957 is the time of British rule. Is the time of British rule. Do you know, dear students, before British came into India, that is around 1750s, India was a prosperous economy. Pre 1757, India was a prosperous economy. You know, Indian handmade goods were very popular. You know, today, if people have iPhone, Apple ka phone, Apple ka products, it's considered a class symbol, yes or no? That they are of high class. Those times, the Roman emperor, empress used to wear Indian handmade cloaks. That was considered a status symbol to wear products made out of Indian handicrafts. It was considered a status symbol in the world. Just imagine, there was such precision, such craftsmanship pre 1757 that Indian goods were serving as a status symbol for the world. If this is not enough, let me tell you, around 25%, around 25% of the world's trade occurred through India. 25% of the world trade. सर मतलब अगर दुनिया में 100 गुड्स बिक रहे होते थे तो उसमें से 25 गुड्स इंडिया के होते थे. आप ये सोचिए, 25% ऑफ द वर्ल्ड ट्रेड. Imagine. So India was quite a rich and prosperous economy pre 1757. But then ब्रिटिश का नजर हमारी इकोनॉमी पे पड़ गया, हमारे इंडिया पे पड़ गया. 1757 marks the beginning of rule by English East India Company. English East India Company. Imagine, English East India Company had come to our country. English East India Company, you see friends, had come to our country. English East India Company हमारी कंट्री में आया था बिजनेस करने, गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज का खरीदना बेचना करने के लिए. सुन रहे हैं आप लोग? पर हुआ क्या, लास्ट में इंडिया को एक कॉलोनी बना दिया. सर कॉलोनी का मतलब बेसिकली अपना एक गुलाम बना लिया, अपनी पर्पसेस के लिए यूज करने लग गया इंडियन इकोनॉमी को. India became a colony of the East India Company and the British Empire. Actually, East India Company was doing a fine job. But do you know something happened in 1857? If you are a student of history or if you had studied history, you will definitely know. Something happened in 1857. Can you tell me? Right. What happened in 1857? Can you tell me? Exactly 100 years after the British came to India. Exactly 100 years after the British came into India. Come on. Very good. Very, very good. You all are correct. No, Battle of Plassey was around the 1750s period. Yes. Parth, you are correct. The first correct answer is given by Partho. Parth, perfect answer. Indian Rebellion. The first war for independence, led by people like Mangal Pandey, etc. After the cartridge and field crisis, if you all remember. Right. So 1857 marks the first war of independence. Sir, this could have been the time when India became independent. ये वो समय हो सकता था जब इंडिया आजाद हो जाता. तो सर हुआ क्यों नहीं? तो सर हुआ क्यों नहीं? आप बोल रहे हो ये वो समय था जब इंडिया आजाद हो सकता था, तो सर इंडिया आजाद हुआ क्यों नहीं? My dear students, it was because people in our society were not united. एकता नहीं थी हमारे बीच में. And therefore, we lost this war. We could not remove British from the throne. But there was some change that took place. Now the British government took over from East India Company in 1858. So in 1857, the control that East India company had on India, the control that English East India Company had on India, the control that English East India Company had on India was taken away from them by the British government, because the British feared that such a revolt could arise again. And this time East India Company may not be in a position to handle that. And therefore, as soon as 1857 concluded and 1858 began, it also marked the beginning of the rule by the British Empire, that is, the British government from 1858. Some new policies were adopted, some new changes were made. We are going to, of course, talk about that. But, friends, finally, India gets its independence thanks to our freedom fighters. 1947. India gets its independence in 1947. Friends, 1947 is when we get our independence. But, but, this 1947 is crucial, because can you imagine? British had exploited India. Write down in the chat. British had exploited India so much so that 25% of world trade was reduced to 3% of world trade. India, was the in this time, that is pre 1757, India दुनिया में finished products बेचता था. India used to sell finished products to the world. In 1957, India became importer of finished products and exporter of raw materials only. इंडिया एक रॉ मटेरियल का एक्सपोर्टर बन के रह गया था और इंपोर्टर बन गया था फिनिश गुड्स का, क्योंकि ब्रिटिश को सामान तो इंडिया में बेचना था अपना, ब्रिटिश को रिच करने के लिए. एंड सो ब्रिटिश यूज्ड टू सेल देयर प्रोडक्ट्स मैन्युफैक्चर्ड इन ब्रिटेन इनटू इंडिया एंड फोर्स्ड इंडियन पीपल टू बाय इट by taxing Indian commodities. They made Indian products expensive. Indian commodities लोगों के लिए महंगा बना दिया. They made Indian products expensive and European and British products cheaper. Now my question to you is, sir, British could have come anytime during India. Okay? What is the reason around 1750s British came to India? Or East India Company came into India? Any clues? Let's see who can think this way. Very good. Very, very good. Yes. The trade reduced from, just imagine, 25% to just 3% of the world trade. Imagine that. Yes. My question to you is, why from 1757? Why around 1757 British came into India? Why? Around 1750s. Why not in 1500, 1300, 1200? Why not then? You know why? Because this was the time of industrial revolution in England. Because this 1750s was the time of industrial revolution in England. So industries were set up in England. अरे तो भाई अगर माल बनाएंगे तो कोई खरीदने वाला भी तो चाहिए. Industries were being set up. Goods were being manufactured. But if there are goods, there needs to be buyers of those goods. And to make or to create buyers, countries need to be captured. And that's why they came here at that point of time. Because India was the major exporter. So if India was selling, then the British could not sell. So by controlling India, they stopped Indian exports and increased British exports. Okay. Sir, we get the idea. Sir, we get the idea. Sir, we definitely get the idea. Do you, dear students, or you not? Come on, dear students. Do you or you don't? Come on, dear students. Come on. Come on. 1750s, dear students, was the time of industrial revolution in England. It was the time of industrial revolution in England. 100% done, sir. Understood. Very, very good. Good. Great, sir. So, friends, first I need you all to note this down, this timeline down. Only then I will move further. पहले ये टाइमलाइन आप नोट कर लीजिए, फिर मैं आगे बढ़ूंगा. उसके पहले नहीं बढ़ूंगा. Once noted down, write down done. Okay, Anuj. Very good. सर, इस जर्नी को आगे बढ़ाइए. फ्रेंड्स, अभी तक मजा आ रहा है? अभी तक समझ आ रहा है? हाँ ना बताना पड़ेगा. इज दिस क्लियर टिल नाउ? Come on, everyone, you have to confirm it. Only then I will be able to proceed. Come on, students. Very good. Very good, very good, very good. Very good. So, friends, now the journey begins. Since I am unable to write here, post 1947, I am making another timeline. Nineteen 47, 1991, and today as we stand, 2024. Okay? Now pay attention. Now pay attention. 1947, British had made India's economy. In one word, I want to describe it. Can you guess that one word? In 1947, British had made India's economy. There is a single word for it. Can you tell me the word? The word is stagnant. Stagnant. India had made the British had made the Indian economy stagnant. Sir, what does stagnant means? Stagnant means रुका हुआ. रुका हुआ, थमा हुआ. थमा हुआ. Stagnant economy. The one that had stopped. The one whose prospects had become very low. Whose growth prospects had become very low. Now, this time, our Prime Minister becomes Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ji. Nehru ji. Now, he decides that India will follow a mixed economy structure. But there's a twist. When you say mixed economy, you all know the meaning. You have done it in your microeconomics portion in the first 1 or 2 classes when your economics journey had started. Then you must have heard that a mixed economy is one which is characterized by existence of both capitalist and socialist economy. Which is characterized by existence of both capitalist and socialist economy. But guys, guess what? But guys, guess what? Reality में, it was the government or the center which was strong center. So basically there were a lot of controls on the private sector, lot of restrictions on the private sector, lot of restrictions on the private sector, lot of restriction. So capitalism was not really promoted. It was just spoken of, but not really promoted during this time period. from 1947 to 1991. From 1947 to 1991. Because of lack of government support in 1991, India's economy came to a poor state. India's economy came to a poor state. You know how poor the state was? Poor state. You know how poor the state was? India barely had, oil for 2 weeks. Just. India had no money to import oil by 1991. No money to import oil. You know why? Because government was not really successful in managing the economy in itself between the 47 to 91 period. Can you imagine what the tax rate was during the 1980s? 90% tax rate. You know, such was the situation of India. Nine means people who were making money were looked down upon. जो लोग पैसा कमाते थे बिजनेस करके उन लोगों को नीचे दर्जे से देखा जाता था 90% का टैक्स लगा दिया जाता था मतलब अगर मैं 1 लाख रुपया कमा रहा हूं तो मैं 90,000 तो सरकार को दे दे रहा हूं इफ आई एम मेकिंग 1 लाख रुपीज 90,000 आई एम गिविंग इट टू द गवर्नमेंट आई एम लेफ्ट विथ 10,000 ओनली सच वॉज द स्टेट ऑफ अफेयर ड्यूरिंग दिस 1970 and 80s period just imagine because India was not doing well and government desperately needed money to keep the imports from outside on. So, sir, what to do then, sir? That is the question, sir. तो अब क्या किया जाए, sir? What to be done, sir? Good question. Logical question. Friends, then our finance minister, you know who our finance minister was during the 1991 period? Do you know who the finance minister was during the 1991 period? Yes, Manmohan Singh ji, who was, you know, later credited to become the Prime Minister of India. So finance minister was Manmohan Singh ji. And in economics, he was a very sharp mind. In economics, he was a very sharp mind. He went to IMF and World Bank seeking for loans. In 1991, he went to IMF and World Bank seeking for loan. IMF and World Bank told in 1991, IMF is International Monetary Fund, okay, and World Bank. IMF and World Bank told Mr. Manmohan Singh, okay, you take money, you take loan, subject to three conditions, three changes you do in India. Three conditions, three changes you do in India. Can anyone tell me what the three conditions or the three changes were expected? If you have done economics in class 12, you will surely know it, because it is exactly from class 12 economics. Right. K.S. Anag, correct answer. Ms. Tambeshwari, correct answer. Karthik, correct answer. It is called liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Liberalization, privatization, globalization. Also called LPG, 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 LPG. Liberalization, privatization, and C is ग्लोबलाइजेशन। सर, सर, व्हाट इज लिबरलाइजेशन सर? सर, व्हाट इज प्राइवेटाइजेशन सर? सर, what is globalization, sir? I will explain that to you one at a time. Is so far so good? Yes or no? Come on. No, Shakshi, it is International Monetary Fund. Monetary Fund. It was called the International Monetary Fund. IMF was called the International Monetary Fund, which had three conditions and three changes: liberalization, privatization, globalization. Is that clear? Now, what is liberalization? I'll explain it in simple terms, okay? Then we will move to ICAI material, okay? Now I am giving you basically this entire chapter because this is a huge chapter. So I'm trying to give you the gist of the chapter. Basic terminology, meanings, basic timeline understanding I am giving you. Understood, not understood? Then we will move to institute material, don't worry. So friends, can you tell me what liberalization is? Liberalization is a scenario. पहले मैं हिंदी में बोलता हूँ फिर इंग्लिश में बोलूंगा. लिबरलाइजेशन वो सिनेरियो है जहां गवर्नमेंट की ड्यूटी है कि वो प्राइवेट सेक्टर को थोड़ा फ्रीडम दे. जो रेस्ट्रिक्शंस थे, काफी रेस्ट्रिक्शंस थे. उसमें से एक रेस्ट्रिक्शन है इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसी रेजोल्यूशन 1956. इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसी रेजोल्यूशन 1956. इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसी रेजोल्यूशन 1956 के अंतर्गत पता है आपको क्या आता था? बिजनेसेस तीन तरीके की इंडस्ट्रीज में डिवाइडेड होते थे: शेड्यूल ए, शेड्यूल बी, शेड्यूल सी. शेड्यूल ए और शेड्यूल बी में जो बिजनेसेस होते थे, प्राइवेट सेक्टर वो बिजनेसेस कर ही नहीं सकते थे. शेड्यूल बी में सपोर्टिंग रोल में कर सकते थे, शेड्यूल सी में पूरी तरह से. तो मतलब बहुत सारा रेस्ट्रिक्शंस था. बैंक्स अपने ब्रांचेस नहीं खोल सकते थे, प्राइवेट बैंक्स अलाउड नहीं थे. तो लिबरलाइजेशन का मतलब है कि ये जो प्राइवेट सेक्टर के ऊपर रोक टोक है ना, किसी को भी बिजनेस करना है लाइसेंसिंग चाहिए. लिबरलाइजेशन meant removal of restrictions imposed by the government on the private sector. You know, government had unreasonably imposed a lot many restrictions, some of which included licensing requirements, some of which involved a ban on opening of branches, ban or, you know, disallowed. Opening of bank branches was disallowed. If a business was exceeding a certain turnover, it was not allowed to expand. Just imagine. Then why the heck am I doing business for? But all that was happening. So friends, liberalization implied freedom from unnecessary restrictions. So liberalization, I'll write the definition. I'll write a more formal definition for you all, but just try to understand the meaning. Okay, try to understand the crux of this chapter. चैप्टर बोलना क्या चाह रहा है मैं आपको वो समझा रहा हूं. ठीक है? तो लिबरलाइजेशन implied freedom from unreasonable restrictions, freedom from unreasonable restrictions on private sector. फ्रीडम फ्रॉम अनरीजनेबल रेस्ट्रिक्शंस, ऐसी रोक टोक जो कि अनरीजनेबल थी, दैट वाज नॉट डिजायर्ड, उससे छुटकारा, उसे हम लोग लिबरलाइजेशन कहते हैं दोस्तों. क्या आपने इतनी बात नोट कर ली है? हाँ या ना बताइएगा. Is that clear, dear students? Yes or no? Come on. Now, what is privatization, sir? Now, what is privatization? What is privatization? Privatization is basically there were a lot of loss making government businesses. So, privatization implied basically what IMF and World Bank told the Indian government was कि government का काम country चलाना है, businesses नहीं. Privatization implied. Privatization implied selling. Privatization implied selling. Privatization implied selling. What selling? Selling what, sir? Privatization implied selling of the shares of government entities to private sector, particularly the loss making ones. जो लॉस मेकिंग बिजनेसेस है वो फ्रॉम पब्लिक सेक्टर प्राइवेट सेक्टर को ट्रांसफर कर दिया जाए, उसे प्राइवेटाइजेशन कहते हैं. ट्रांसफर ऑफ गवर्नमेंट बिजनेसेस, not all, particularly the sick ones. Sick means the loss making businesses. Transfer of government owned businesses. Transfer of government owned businesses. Transfer of government owned businesses from private sector to public sector. From what to what? From private sector to public sector. From private sector to public sector. From private sector to public sector. Understood, dear students? From private sector to public sector. Wrong. Is it correct? Wrong. I had intentionally done this. Not from private sector to public sector. Sir, ulta likhiye. From public sector to private sector. Very good. Those that have found out, very good. देखते हैं कौन कौन बता पाए थे. Very good, Anushka. From public sector to private sector, not from private to public. MCQ में ऐसे आपको डराया जा सकता है. Mind you, everybody. From public sector to private sector. Understood? Correct, Muskan. Very good. Muskan also caught it. Mr. Mohammed Mateen, correct. You also found out. Correct. Very good. Is that clear? Yes, sir. It's clear. Sir, now what is globalization? Sir, what is globalization? Friends, globalization basically means transfer of, no transfer, integration of. Basically, the domestic businesses in my country are now open to do business with the outside countries, and the people in the outside countries are allowed to do business with people in my country, basically opening up the economy. Integration of domestic economy with the world economy. Integration of domestic economy with the world economy. Correct. Globalization meant of domestic economy with the world economy. Integration of domestic economy with the वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी. डोमेस्टिक इकोनॉमी को वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी के साथ जोड़ना. डोमेस्टिक इकोनॉमी को वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी के साथ जोड़ना. That is what was meant by globalization. Understood? Not understood, dear students? Yes or no? Come on. Note it down, and then we will move to institute study material. Then we will move to institute study material. If this much is clear, then we will talk about our institute's material. Of course, I was talking from there only, but I had expressed you the journey. तो दोस्तों क्रक्स में अगर मैं बताऊं तो इस चैप्टर की जर्नी ये है जो मैंने आपको लिखकर दिखाई है. Of course, there is a lot of detail here. Of course, there is a lot of detailing here that we are going to do, but this was the basics of it. I hope it's clear to everybody. Come on, guys. Come on, everybody. Very good. Okay, let's move to the material now. Let's see now. Let's analyze the economy now. Let's analyze the economy now. Status of Indian economy pre-independence, that is 1850 to 47 period. But as I had told you, see, everything I have told you is written here. Between the 1st and the 17th century AD, Indian economy. See, between the 1st and 17th century AD, India is believed to have had the largest economy of ancient and medieval world. It was prosperous. India was self-reliant. Sir, what does self-reliant means? Self-reliant means self-dependent. Atmanirbhar. Self-dependent. And is believed to have controlled between 1/3 and 1/4 of the world's wealth. I had told you 1/4 of the trade, 1/4 of the world's money was with India. India was actually the economic superpower. The economy consisted of self-sufficient villages as well as cities, which were the centers of commerce, pilgrimage, and administration. So see, everything here was going good. You know, our economy was characterized with simple division of labor, a very important word. Let me take you to the material back, writing material. Friends, what is simple division of labor? Let me remind you, division of labor is of two types. Friends, division of labor is mainly of two types. Let's see who is able to answer amongst you people. One is called simple division of labor. The other is called complex division of labor. Now you all tell me which one is, what is simple, what is complex. Pilgrimage means basically for religious visits. Pilgrimage means for religious visits, for spiritual education. Come on, dear students. Very good. Very good. So friends, you people are absolutely correct. Friends, you people are absolutely correct. You have understood. Let me explain it to you. First of all, division of labor. लोगों के बीच में काम बांटना. Dividing work between people. Dividing work between people. अच्छा, remember, this is the feature of ancient economy. Old economy. Pre-independent India had simple division of labor. Pre-independent India had simple division of labor. And this is modern economy's feature. But sir, what is it? What is it, sir? Sir, मतलब क्या है आप बताइए. Okay. Friends, suppose, first of all, division of labor means work divided between people. Work divided between people. Work divided between people. In simple language, this is what division of labor means. In simple language, this is what division of labor means. In simple language, this is what division of labor means. In simple language, this is what division of labor means. In simple language, this is what division of labor means. But what is simple division of labor? हिंदी में बोलता हूं फिर इंग्लिश में बोलूंगा. सिंपल डिवीजन ऑफ लेबर का अर्थ है कि जहां पे हर इंसान एक पूरे कमोडिटी के लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल है. हर इंसान एक पूरे कमोडिटी के लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल है. समझ में आया? मतलब अगर एक कंपनी मान लीजिए चिप्स बनाती है, तो एक इंसान, वन पर्सन का जॉब रहेगा पूरा चिप्स का प्रोसेसेस को संभालना, हर प्रोसेस को, है ना। बटर का काम सेकंड पर्सन करेगा. So basically, simple division means where division of product and services took place. Division of product and services among people. Division of product and services. So basically, one person was responsible for the entire product. You can say one person responsible for entire one product. एक प्रोडक्ट के लिए एक आदमी इकलौता जिम्मेदार था. एक प्रोडक्ट के लिए एक इकलौता आदमी जिम्मेदार था. इसे हम लोग कहते हैं सिंपल डिवीजन ऑफ लेबर. उम्मीद है आपको समझ में आया है. Sir, what is complex division of labor? What is in the modern economy? What is complex division of labor? Sir, can you tell us that? Can you explain us what is complex division of labor? Surely I shall explain it to you. When a single product, a single product is divided into multiple processes. Very important. A single product is divided into multiple processes. A single product production is divided into multiple processes, and a person is in charge of the process. A person is in charge of the process, not the product. Not the product. A person is in charge of the process, not the product. Sir, for example, friends, I am responsible for teaching you economics. Okay? मैं रिस्पॉन्सिबल हूं इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ाने के लिए. बट इंस्टीट्यूट के नोट्स, जो मेरे नोट्स है, वो आपको ऐप में मिलता है आईसीआई की टेक्निकल टीम के बदौलत. ये जो क्लासेस कंडक्ट हो रही हैं, इसमें मैं क्लास ले रहा हूं, मैं टेक्निकल पार्ट हैंडल नहीं कर रहा, टेक्निकल पार्ट कोई और हैंडल कर रहा है. Somebody else is handling the technical part. Somebody else is planning the schedule. I am taking the class. So for a single product of class delivery, so many people are being involved. This is called complex division of labor seen in the modern economy. Sir, which one is good? Of course, the complex division is good as it brings in specialization. As it brings in specialization. As it brings in specialization. Now you see, I may not be good with, the technicalities and the software and so on, but I'm very good with my subject. I am able to spend more time with my subject. That is why I'm good with my subject. Why I am able to spend more time with my subject? Because the only work I have been assigned is to study the subject and teach the students. But suppose ICAI had told me कि नहीं, सेशन भी आप स्टार्ट करवाइए, सारा चीज बैक एंड फोर्थ आप देखिए, स्केड्यूल भी आप प्लान कीजिए, सब कुछ आप कीजिए, बाकी टीचर्स के साथ भी आप कोऑर्डिनेट कीजिए. इफ समथिंग लाइक दिस ICAI would have told me, ना, I would have done. But then my efficiency would have reduced, because then my work efforts would have been into dealing with some other work as well. Understood or not understood, dear students? But in the ancient economy, we had simple division of labor. आप पूरे प्रोडक्ट को शुरू से एंड तक एक ही आदमी को उस पर काम करते हुए देखते थे. But in complex division, now you see specialization taking place. Friends, is that clear? Yes or no? Come on, dear students. Person is in charge of process. A person is in charge of process. For example, in cloth industry, somebody is responsible to cut the cloth. Somebody is responsible for stitching the cloth. Somebody is responsible for coloring the cloth, that is dyeing the cloth. In the simple division of labor, one person would do all the things. But in a complex economy, cutting would be done by person 1, person 2 will stitch, person 3 will dye. This is called complex division of labor, where there is only one product, cloth, but the different stages are performed by different individuals. That, my dear students, is complex division of labor. I am 100% sure it's crystal clear. Yes or no? Come on. Very good, Sachi. Akash, okay. Okay, Pavan. Come on, students, come on. Understood, everybody? This is what simple division of labor means. This is what simple division of labor means. And then there was race, class, gender discrimination, right? Agriculture was the dominant occupation and the main source of livelihood for majority of people. Very important for MCQ. Institute may ask that during the pre-independence period, what was the main occupation? What was the main occupation? So remember what you have to tell institute. You will have to tell agriculture was the main occupation. This is about the ancient economic philosophy. I have already taught you. This is about Arthashastra. I have already taught you about Kautilya. So we have already done this in the beginning of today's class itself. Yes, sir, it's crystal clear to us. Yes, sir, it's crystal clear to us. The advent, the advent of the Europeans and the British marked a shift in the economic history of India. The period of British rule can be divided into two sub-periods. The period of British rule can be divided into two sub-periods. The period of British rule is divided into two sub-periods. Into two sub-periods. Number one, East India Company 1715 to 7 to 1858. Have I not told you this? ये देखिए, I have explained it to you. Here it is. See, I had drawn the timeline. Here it is. 1757 to 1858. Check it out. बताया हुआ आप लोगों को? Yes. So see, basically, British had ruled India from 1757 to 1947. In this, there was a break in the sense that in 1857, East India Company's rule ended and rule of the British government started. British government. British, what? There were two main objectives of British. Two main objectives of British of coming into India. Two main objectives of British. I am making you write it down. Two main objectives of British were there. Number one, ब्रिटिश के दो मेजर ऑब्जेक्टिव्स थे. There were two major objectives, friends. Sir, can you tell them? Yes. First main objective of British. फर्स्ट मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ ब्रिटिश. फर्स्ट मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ ब्रिटिश. सबसे पहला जरूरी ऑब्जेक्टिव ब्रिटिश का, टू मेक इंडिया द मार्केट फॉर फिनिश्ड प्रोडक्ट्स ऑफ ब्रिटिश. टू मेक इंडिया मार्केट फॉर फिनिश्ड प्रोडक्ट्स of British. To make India market for finished products of British. And number two, to make finished product you need what? फिनिश प्रोडक्ट बनाने के लिए क्या चाहिए ये बताइए. कपड़ा बनाना है तो क्या चाहिए? कपड़ा बनाना है तो क्या चाहिए? आप लोग बताइए मुझे, if you want to stitch up a cloth, what is the basic thing you need? Come on, tell me the general word for it. Cotton. What is cotton? A raw material. What is cotton? A raw material. Exactly my point. Where will the raw materials come from? India. Because India was rich in resources. So, number one, इंडिया में माल बेचने का, रॉ मटेरियल भी इंडिया से ही लेने का. Very, very good. Who had written raw material first? Partho had written, followed by Partho. I can see. Okay, before Partho, K.S. Annag had written, Mohammad Mateen, Akash, Anushka, very good. Dheeraj, Anusa, Nancy, Parul, Jay Lakshmi, correct. To make, to take raw materials from India, to buy raw materials from India, or to make India a source of raw materials. To make India a source of raw material. Please write down the major objectives of British. And you know, the approach of British, there is one word for the approach of British. Approach of British. There is a single word for approach of British. You will want to know that word. The word is deindustrialization. The word is deindustrialization. Can you tell me what is deindustrialization? What is deindustrialization? Correct, correct. Deindustrialization means promoting British industries by destroying, promoting British industries by destroying Indian industries. Promoting British industries by destroying Indian industries. Promoting British industries by destroying Indian industries. That is what deindustrialization means. Correct. Note it down, friends, so that we can move forward. Acha, before we move forward, I am allowing all of you 5 to 10 minutes break. I am allowing you all 10 minutes break. I am here only. मैं यहीं पर हूं, मैं कोई ब्रेक नहीं ले रहा. मैं अभी आप लोगों से डाउट्स लूंगा, इसलिए मैं यहीं पर हूं. आप लोग जो है जिनको ब्रेक में जाना है जा सकते हैं. मैं यहीं पर हूं. प्लीज आस्क द डाउट्स नाउ. अच्छा, Anil is asking, sir, explain LPG. Anil, LPG stands for dear liberalization, privatization, globalization. Liberalization means giving freedom to private sector. Privatization means to sell the loss making government businesses to private sector. And globalization means allowing import exports. Basically, pre 1991, Indian government had closed down all the doors. So foreign goods were not allowed in our country, majority of them. And so globalization means indulging into foreign relations where export and imports are promoted, allowed without much restrictions. Anusa, discriminatory means unfair, excessively high. किसी को पैसा देते हो. Om, if you give loan to someone, will you not want to know how they will repay? If India was working or Indian government was working as it was doing before 1991, IMF and World Bank को तो अपना पैसा मिलता नहीं. अगर ओम कोई आपसे पैसे मांगने आता है और उसका ऐसा सिचुएशन है कि किसी भी सिनेरियो में वो पैसा नहीं चुका पाएगा, आपको ऐसा लग रहा है, तो आप उसको पैसा दोगे क्या? नहीं. आप उसको कुछ बदलाव करने बोलोगे, आप कुछ कुछ कंडीशन डालोगे कि अगर तुम ये फॉलो करोगे तो हम तुमको पैसा देंगे, क्योंकि तब तो चांसेस है कि मेरा पैसा वापस आए, वरना हम तुमको पैसा दे क्यों? लेट्स सी द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. Yes, Sachi, we will be discussing that. माही इज आस्किंग, सर डी इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन हिंदी में समझाइए. माही, डी इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन का मतलब होता है कि ब्रिटिश क्या कर रहा था बेसिकली, इंडियन इंडस्ट्रीज जो हैंडीक्राफ्ट्स के इंडस्ट्रीज थे, जिसमें अपने लोग बहुत अच्छा कर रहे थे इंडियंस लोग, उसको डिस्ट्रॉय करके ब्रिटिश अपने यहाँ की इंडस्ट्रीज को प्रमोट कर रहा था. इंडियन इंडस्ट्रीज को डिस्ट्रॉय करके किसी का खाना छीन के किसी और का पेट भरना, वो है डी इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन. ब्रिटिश कर क्या रहा था? इंडियंस का इंडस्ट्री डिस्ट्रॉय कर रहा था और ब्रिटेन का इंडस्ट्रीज बढ़ा रहा था. ब्रिटेन में इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन को फाइनेंस कर रहा था. इसको बोलते हैं डी इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन. उम्मीद है साची आपको क्लियर रहा होगा बात. सॉरी माही, आपको क्लियर रहा होगा बात. यस साची, वी विल कम टू दैट. इंडियन इकोनॉमी पे अभी और भी क्लासेस है हमारी, डोंट वरी, वी हैव क्लासेस. प्रियंका इज आस्किंग, सर कुड यू एक्सप्लेन, sir please explain two main objective of British. Okay, so Priyanka, it was number one, to make India's a market for finished product of Indian commodities. Basically, British were manufacturing goods. Why? Because industrial revolution was taking place back home in Britain, so they were manufacturing goods and selling it to Indians. And second objective is, where were they taking this cotton and other raw materials, indigo, from India to manufacture those goods. Is that clear, dear students? Yes or no? Mixed economy. Mixed economy. What is mixed economy? Friends, mixed economy is an economy where there is private sector as well as government sector. Capitalist economy as well as socialist economy. Sachi. Sachi, hostile. Hostile means dangerous. Enemy. Enemy. Imperial means the British policies. Basically, Sachi, whatever policies British were making were anti-India. That is why it is called hostile imperial policies. Anushka is asking, sir, what is greenfield investment? Dear Anushka, greenfield investment basically means when investment is made by a foreign business in a new area, in a completely new background in India, in a completely new industry in India. If the foreign sector is using the existing infrastructure, that is brownfield investment. If it is a completely new area, that is greenfield investment. Yes, we will definitely do. If not today, then in next class, but we will definitely do all the MCQs, of course. Right. Now, friends, time is over. Let's pay attention now. See, what British were doing, you see, the Indian exports of finished goods were subjected to heavy tariffs. Tariffs, you know what is the meaning? Taxes. Why British was doing this? Any idea? Any idea? Why British was doing this? Why British was subjecting Indian imports to heavy taxes? So that Indian goods costly ban jaye. So that Indian products become expensive. Yes. So Indian export of finished goods were subjected to heavy taxes. You know why? So that Indian goods become expensive. Why? British को किसका सामान बेचना है? आप लोग मेरे को एक आंसर दो. Whose product will the British want to sell? I'm giving you two options. Number one, Indians. Indian handmade goods British will want to sell. Number two, goods made by industries in Britain, in Manchester. Whose goods will British want to sell? Indian or Manchester made goods by machines? Tell me, Indian handmade or British Manchester goods? Come on. Machine made goods. Come on. Tell me. Two options I have given you. Yes. Britain. Of course, British will want to sell British goods. And if Indian goods are not expensive, then nobody will buy British goods. So they were imposing tax on Indian goods. Why? So that, write down here, so that Indian goods become costly slash expensive. So that Indian goods become costly slash expensive. So the Indian exports of finished goods were subjected to heavy taxes and the imports were charged lower tariffs under the policy of discriminatory. Discriminatory का मतलब है भेदभाव करना, inequality. Why imports they have reduced? You know, because they were importing British goods. They wanted British goods to be cheaper. So low taxes on imported goods because they were British. High taxes on Indian goods because they were being exported and they did not want Indian goods to be exported. Understood, friends? Friends, understood? Right. Have you written it down? Now, this made the exports of finished goods relatively costlier and the imports cheaper. So it became cheaper to import British goods and expensive to sell Indian goods, which was the objective. In this backdrop, the Indian goods lost their competitiveness because Indian goods were now very expensive. So nobody wanted to buy Indian goods. This is what I told. Deindustrialization is destroying Indian industry, destroying Indian industry. This is what basically is the goal. Consequently, the external as well as the domestic demand for indigenous products fell sharply, culminating in the destruction of Indian handicrafts and manufacturers. So basically, it led to the destruction of Indian handicrafts and manufacturers. It led to the destruction of Indian handicrafts and manufacturers. So basically, Indian handmade goods were destroyed. How? By making them expensive. Write it down. Indian handicrafts were destroyed by making them costlier using tariffs slash taxes. Using tariffs slash taxes. The destruction of Indian manufacturers, mainly due to the hostile imperial policies to serve the British interest from machine-made goods, had far-reaching adverse consequences on the Indian manufacturing sector. The problem was aggravated by the shift in patterns of demand by domestic consumers favoring foreign goods, as many Indians wanted to affiliate themselves with the Western culture and ways of life. So Indian basically wanted to affiliate themselves with the Western culture and way of life. Indians. So you see today, Western ideology is prevailing. So everybody wants to look like people in America, UK, etc. Yes, sir, we have understood. The damage done to the long established production structure had far reaching consequences as it destroyed the balance of the village economy, which was characterized by harmonious blending of agriculture and handicraft. So initially, agriculture and handicrafts were the key features of the traditional village economy. In villages, you were seeing agriculture and handicrafts. But now this was destroyed. And what happened as a result? लार्ज स्केल अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट. जो लोग हैंडीक्राफ्ट इंडस्ट्री में थे, जो लोग एग्रीकल्चरल सेक्टर में थे, पीपल हु वेर इन द एग्रीकल्चरल सेक्टर, पीपल हु वेर इन द हैंडीक्राफ्ट सेक्टर, सिंस नाउ देयर प्रोडक्ट्स वेर नॉट बीइंग सोल्ड, सो दे बिकेम अनएम्प्लॉयड. क्योंकि उनका बनाया हुआ सामान अब बिक नहीं रहा था, तो वो लोग बेरोजगार हो गए, उनकी नौकरी चली गई. Large scale unemployment and absence of alternative sources of employment, which force many to depend on agriculture for livelihood. A biggest blow, a biggest blow, large scale unemployment and absence of alternative sources of employment. A biggest blow. The increased pressure on land, cost, subdivision, and fragmentation of land holdings, subsistence farming, reduced agricultural productivity, and poverty. So, increased pressure on land, cost, subdivision, and fragmentation of land holdings. So, basically, land holdings were broken down. So, basically, land holdings were broken down. Agricultural productivity reduced. Why? Because British was not spending money on agriculture and British were collecting taxes from farmers. collecting taxes from farmers. And cheap machine made goods were imported. So Indian domestic industries could not survive. How will they survive? Land tenure system, the Zamindari system, created a class of people whose interests were focuses on perpetuating the British rule. Sir, what is this point? Please explain. Okay, let's understand Zamindari system. Put the heading, Zamindari system. Land tenure system, it is often called as. Land tenure system slash Zamindari system. Understood? So land tenure system slash Zamindari system. Let's try and understand this. Let's try and understand this, everyone. See, this is a piece of land. Let me make a piece of land. This is an agricultural land. Who was controlling it? Owned by British. Who was owning it? British was owning it. किसके पास ओनरशिप थी? ब्रिटिश के पास ओनरशिप थी. किसके पास ओनरशिप थी? ब्रिटिश के पास ओनरशिप थी. Okay. Who was owning it? The British was owning it. That's correct. सर और बताइए कुछ. Now pay attention. It was owned by British. Now British used to conduct auction. Sir, what was auction? Auction में ब्रिटिश बोलता था कि लाओ जो मेरे को सबसे ज्यादा टैक्सेस देगा, जो मेरे को जो हमें जो हमें सबसे ज्यादा टैक्सेस देगा. Now I'll write it in English as well. Those that will give us maximum taxes on this land. Maximum taxes on this land will get a chance to become the owner slash zamindar of this land. So for example, there are three zamindars. A said, B said, C said. A is a zamindar. A is a person interested in auction. A is telling, okay, I'll give you 20% of the share. You means the British. B says, okay, British, I'll give you 40%. C says, okay, British, I'll give you 70%. You all tell me who will win the auction and who will become the zamindar of this land. British will give the land zamindari to whom? Right, right. Correct. Dheeraj correct. Anuj correct. Parul Partha, Ranjit, Tambeshwari, Sachi, Nishi, Hitesh, Anushka, Anjali. Correct. C gets to become the zamindar of this land. Now, what was C doing? You know, C goes to the farmers C goes to the farmers. C will give 70% to British, 10 to 15% C will keep, and remaining 2 to 5% farmer will get. Just imagine how the farmer is being exploited. And you know what? Guess who will spend the guess who will spend on the upkeep of land? लैंड की देखभाल के लिए, जमीन की देखभाल के लिए खर्चा किसका होगा? जमीन की देखभाल का खर्चा कौन करेगा? टेल मी. You all guessed it correctly. Very good. Farmers. Imagine farmers will get 2 to 5% of the income, and from this they will have to spend, and the others they will not spend. So just imagine such cruelty. This was Zamindari system. It was basically giving British more power. This is what perpetuated means. Giving British more power. Giving British more power, as it was making British wealthier. As it was making British wealthier. ब्रिटिश को अमीर बना रहा था. Imagine, such was the kind of practices that was prevalent. Imagine. Friends, have you understood the Zamindari system? Come on, everybody. Very good. Next, excessive pressure on land increased the demand for land under tenancy, and the zamindars got the opportunity to extract excessive rents and other payments. This exploitation also we have discussed. Absentee landlordism means landlord, that is the zamindar, not interested in improving the land. Landlord only interested in rent. Landlord is only interested in rent. Landlord only interested in rent, nothing else. Landlord only interested in rent. The landlord was not interested. The landlord was not interested in improving the quality of land. Write it down. This is the meaning of absentee landlordism. Landlord means the owner of the land. Was only interested in rent, not interested in improving quality of land. Imagine all this kind of practices was going on. Just imagine. Very good. Friends, next thing is India's industrial growth was insufficient to bring in transformation in its economic structure. The share in the NDP of the manufacturing sector had barely reached 10% even in 1946. So, poor manufacturing sector. India's manufacturing sector was poor manufacturing sector till 1946. Now we have studied till independence, pre-independence period. Shall we talk about post-independence? Yes or no, friends? Are we ready? Yes or no? Friends, is this clear? Mostly by illiterate, by extreme heterogeneity on many counts. Very important data related to 1947. Literacy rate below 18%. How many of you know the difference and being educated? Let me tell you the two are different. First of all, what is the difference between being literate and being educated? Come on, tell me. Exactly. So, friends, literate means if somebody can read and write in one language, that's it. That is literate. In at least ability to read and write in at least one language. What is educated? Of course, when you have some qualification, some degree, etc. When you have some qualification slash degree, of course, that is when you are educated. So yes, there's a difference between being literate and being educated. First of all, is that clear so far? Yes or no, guys? Come on. Yes. Imagine in the times of 47, only 18% could read and write one language. 18% or below that. Imagine. Forget about being educated. It will to still be a lower number. And you know what? 1951, poor in health infrastructure. Life expectancy was so low. It is because of poor health infrastructure. Life expectancy was as low as 52 years of age. Life expectancy was, just imagine, 32 years of age. So basically, a person would die by the age of 32. Just imagine. You want to know some more figures? Infant mortality rate was around 218 per thousand. 218 per thousand. Do you understand what is infant mortality rate? Means out of 1000 newborn, 218 newborn would die even before 1 year of age. Means even they cannot celebrate their first birthday. Imagine 218 out of 1000 infants would die before celebrating their first birthday. Such was the scenario. What is this reflecting? Extremely poor health infrastructure. Poor health infrastructure. Read each and every line, each and every word carefully to do better in MCQs. Sir, so far so good, sir. Now, I told you na, Nehruji's model, the Nehruvian model, which supported social and economic redistribution and industrialization, directed by the state, came to dominate the post-independence India. Came to dominate means it was a strong center. Government had strong control. Write it down. It means government had strong control. Private sector had little freedom. Private sector had little freedom. Government had strong control. Private sector had little freedom. Is that clear, dear students? Come on. See, the policies in 1950s were guided. I told you, Nehru's visualization to build a socialistic society means the society where government was stronger with emphasis on heavy industry. Heavy means basically iron and steel industry development. Industries like iron and steel, not only iron and steel, industries in the light of iron and steel. Industries in the light of iron and steel. And the Gandhian philosophy of small scale and cottage industry and village republics. Okay, sir, it's clear to us. The IPR of 1956, though provided a comprehensive framework for industrial development, was lopsided that its guiding principles supported enormous expansion of public sector. A natural outcome of the undue priority of the public sector was dampening of private initiative and enterprise. This is what I was telling you. Private sector was not being promoted. Private sector was being controlled, was being restricted. I told you it will write restriction on private sector. Note it down. Restriction on private sector. Yes, sir, it is clear. The first major shift in the Indian economic strategy was in mid 1960s. Very important. Now, friends, imagine There was till the second 5-year plan. Write it down. Till the second 5-year plan, there was no focus on improving agriculture. There was no focus on improving agriculture. India had to face drought, severe drought. India had to face severe drought. Drought means where the climate is unsuitable, it becomes dry and sufficient quantity food is not available. लोग भूखे रह जाते हैं, लोग भूखे रह जाते हैं, लोग भूखे रह जाते हैं, लोग भूखे रह जाते हैं. Agriculture was not given adequate priority during the second plan and the outlays were reduced. The strategy for development till then was reliance on institutional model, that is land reforms, farm cooperatives, etc. And not much importance was given to technocratic areas. Basically, agriculture was ignored. Just write it down. Instead of this entire para, you can just revise agriculture was ignored. Agriculture was ignored. आप ये सोचिए कितने शर्म की बात है कि इंडिया एक एग्रीकल्चरल इकोनॉमी था, बट इंडिया के लोगों का पेट नहीं भरता था इंडियन एग्रीकल्चर से. इंडिया को फूड ग्रेन्स अमेरिका से मंगाना पड़ता था 1965-66 के अराउंड तक. इंडिया हैड टू इंपोर्ट फूड ग्रेन्स फ्रॉम अमेरिका. सो it can be a very important question, from where did India import its food grains from? India used to import food grains from USA. Very important MCQ. And then came a revolution. Can anyone tell me the name of that revolution? Yes, I will definitely tell you. Then came the Green Revolution. Green Revolution. When did it come in India? In 1960s. In 1960s. Sir, what is Green Revolution? Sir, what is Green Revolution? Sir, what is Green Revolution? Basically, first note the name of this gentleman, Dr. Norman Borlaug. Across the world, he was from basically Mexico. And in the world, he is called the father of Green Revolution. But if we talk about our country, India, MS Swaminathan was the individual who was the respected individual who was responsible for bringing in Green Revolution into India. So, father of Green Revolution in India, MS Swaminathan. पर सर ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन है क्या? पर सर ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन है क्या, ये तो बताइए. Right. So, sir, can you tell us what is Green Revolution? Basically, friends, Green Revolution was celebrated because it had the potential to increase food productivity. Sir, how so? It used high yielding varieties, HYV, basically chemically made seeds and fertilizers. Chemical made seeds and fertilizers. HYV stands for high yielding varieties. HYV stands for high yielding varieties. Right, sir. So friends, this was basically the story of Green Revolution. It was initially implemented in states like Haryana. It was implemented in a phase-wise manner. So Haryana, Punjab, UP came first. Then after the success in these parts of the country, it spread across the country. And then gradually, because of Green Revolution, thanks to Green Revolution, India became exporter of food grains again instead of importer. Such was the contribution of Green Revolution. Importer से exporter बना दिया अपने को. दोस्तों उम्मीद करता हूं यहां तक आप लोगों को बातचीत क्रिस्टल क्लियर है. Is so far crystal clear, friends? Yes or no? Come on, guys. Right, sir. Increasing productivity in agriculture was given the highest priority. This, in fact, kick-started a strategic change in government's policies. And the green revolution was materialized by innovative from technologies, including high-yielding seed varieties, and it required immense use of fertilizer. Food grains. FG is food grains. India started exporting food grains. The Green Revolution was successful in increasing agricultural productivity through technological progress. Now, now, government nationalized. Basically, nationalized means brought under government control. What does nationalized means? Brought under government control. See, government nationalized 14 banks in 69 and then followed it up with nationalizing another 6 in 80s. Nationalization means bringing under government control. Simply bringing under government control. It did not really prove to be very successful. The economic performance during the period is the worst in independent India's history. Worst. This phase I told you now was the worst. So which phase was the worst in independent India's history? 65 to 81. Worst phase. Just write it down, everybody. Very important for MCQs. In independent India's history. Sir, but why? First of all, there was license Raj. Everything the private sector wants to do, they have to take license. So private sector got tired and said, Malik, maaf karo, humko business nahi karna. It was basically discouraging the private sector from doing businesses in India. The license Raj. The autarkic policies. Autarkic means strict government control policies. Three wars that India had to fight. 62 Indo-China, 65 India-Pakistan, 1971 India-Pakistan. Major droughts. ड्रॉट्स मीन सूखा पड़ जाना. इतना कुछ हो चुका था ना इस पीरियड में कि इंडियन इकोनॉमी फेस्ड सीवियर क्राइसिस. Continued till 2 decades. India being practically a closed economy. What is a closed economy? An economy which does not believe in exports and imports. So world economy was creating a lot of opportunities. China took advantage of the same in 1978. But unfortunately, India was late in taking advantage of the opportunities offered by the world. दुनिया में जो अपॉर्चुनिटीज थी, चाइना ने 1978 में ही उसका फायदा उठाना शुरू कर दिया. But unfortunately, India started taking its advantage from the year 1991 or beyond that. Just imagine, the Monopolistic and Restrictive Trade Practices Act of 1969 was aimed at regulation of large firms which had relatively large market power. Just because the firms were large, so restrictions on them were being imposed so that they don't become monopoly. Several restrictions were placed on them. See, license requirements, capacity addition. They cannot increase their plant capacity. Just imagine what kind of practices and what kind of control the government was imposing on the private sector. कि गवर्नमेंट के परमिशन के बिना आप बिजनेस नहीं बड़ा कर सकते. बताइए कोई तुक है इस बात का? आप मर्जर्स और एक्विजिशंस गवर्नमेंट से पूछे बिना नहीं कर सकते. Thus, policies restricting the possibility of expansion of big businesses kept their entry away from nearly all but a few high capital intensive sectors. In 67, that is why I was telling, the Indian economy failed miserably because of the poor decision by the government. In 1967, the policy of reservation for products by the small sector was initiated. So it is called Small Scale Industry Promotion Act. What was it basically? For some commodities, it told basically the government wanted to revive small businesses. Basically, the government wanted to revive small businesses. Now, since the government wanted to revive small businesses, since the government wanted to revive small businesses, since the government wanted to revive small businesses, what did the government do? Since the government wanted to revive small businesses, what did the government do? Government fixed some commodities exclusively to be manufactured by small businesses. So basically, mediocre businesses or large businesses cannot indulge in the production of such commodities reserved by the government for small scale businesses. Because of this policy, all big firms were excluded and India could not compete in the world market because small scale industries were not powerful enough to compete with the global market and global products. Stringent labor laws were in the place also discourage starting of labor intensive industries in the organized sector. Friends, gradually came the era of reforms. Friends, gradually came the era of reforms. बदलाव का समय. Gradually came the era of reforms. But before I start that, okay, and before I focus on this part of the topic, let me, practice with you some MCQs for the time being. Because the chapter is huge and we have time. Don't worry. It's not that the chapter is over, I am claiming. Of course, the chapter is left and definitely we will be able to easily complete it within the time frame allotted to me by respective institute. But let's do some MCQs now. That will give us some confidence for sure. Let's see. The Indian industry stagnated. I told you under the colonial rule. Why? Because Indians were keen on building high structures and monuments. Arey Baba, they didn't have food to eat. Deterioration was caused by high prices of input due to drought. No. The Indian manufacturers could not compete with the imports of cheap machine-made goods. Yes. Indian manufacturers could not compete with that. With the cheap machine-made goods that came particularly from England. Indian manufacturers could not compete with them. That's correct. Sir, is that clear? Yes, sir, it's clear. Next, the first wave of liberalization. When did it start in India? Friends, it started in 1980s. Of course, exact date is 1991, but the first wave of liberalization started in 1980s. Write it down. First wave of liberalization starts in India in 1980s. Okay, let's see what else. What I am skipping is because I have not discussed that. Very important. Question number 9. Which of them is not a policy reform included in the new 1991 policy? Is not a policy reform. Not a policy reform, they're asking. Not a policy reform. Removing licensing requirement for all industry. No. Still, you all know, I have discussed it with you. Still, in areas like atomic energy, जहां गवर्नमेंट को डर लगता है, क्या लगता है? डर लगता है. D for defense, A for atomic energy, R for railways. Some other, forget about this, some other businesses like alcohol. Okay, some hazardous chemicals. If you want to indulge in their business, आज भी आपको लाइसेंस चाहिए, rightly so. हर चीज के लिए लाइसेंस नहीं होना चाहिए, बट कुछ चीजों के लिए होना चाहिए. So all licensing requirements was not there. So of course 9A will be the answer. Acha, why government initially restricted import of foreign goods and foreign investments in India? I am talking about pre 1991 now. Why did the government stop this? Tell me. क्या लगता है आप लोगों को? Stringent means fully, mostly labor involved. Yes, imports of foreign goods and entry of foreign investments, right, dear students, were restricted in India because government was trying to protect the domestic industries. A very common sense oriented question. Of course, there are more questions that we will do, but actually, but actually, but actually, what I am doing is, since till today we have discussed so much only, so I don't want to discuss further. What I have not explained, there is no point me discussing those questions. So I will definitely discuss this. But what is our homework, sir? Homework is read line by line ICAI material till whatever we have done today. Sir, till what part have you done? I will show it to you. Until that part you got to read. Here it is. Till here I have done. So before this part, you got to read. And from this part, I'll continue in our upcoming class. Is that clear, friends? Okay. So friends, for today, I wind up the discussion here. Next day, we will meet. See you all. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you very much for the day.